I'm Steve Johnson, news director for theDove TV. Check out our other videos and visit our website at thedove.us. Thanks.
Okay, we're back and delighted to have back with us one of my favorite guests, and that is Mr. Todd Friel. He heads up Wretched TV and Wretched Radio, and you see his television program on theDove. We air it twice a day, and prime time in the evening, early in the morning, and boy, what a fascinating gentleman this guy is. He writes books, he does radio, he does TV, he leaps tall buildings, he eats Cheerios, and but we have a lot to talk to him about today. Hello, buddy. How you doing?
But please, I cannot draw a direct line, so I'm not certain. You might want to think about not eating Wheaties. Bruce Jenner consumed a lot of them in the 70s, so I'm just saying.
You know, I have reserved comment on the Bruce Jenner thing because it's sad.
Uh-huh.
It's sad. It's sad to see what he's going through, you know.
You know, I'm very going to leave it to you to have that. That is precisely what we should be experiencing when we watch Bruce Jenner and a growing trend in our country called transsexualism, where individuals are so confused that they think that they are the opposite gender. This is an area where the church could shine. Perry, this is not intended to be snarky, but we can undermine the argument. These days, what has happened is they've rewritten the terms where your sex, those are the boy parts you were born with, or the pink parts that you were born with, but you determine your gender. So your sex is your physical manifestation. Your gender is what happens between your two ears. Now, we can undermine that very easily by saying, Perry, I think I'm Elvis. And you would say, well, you're not wearing a white jumpsuit and you don't have spangles, you can't sing, you don't have the mutton chops, but I feel like I'm Elvis. You would say, well, then we need to spend some time talking because your outward manifestation is telling me that inwardly you're not Elvis. Yeah. If I said that I was Hispanic or that I was African American, you'd go, but your skin color is wrong and your parents are white. You're not what you think you are. And you would work on my thinking, not mutilating my body to match what my thinking is. So we can undermine the thinking of the world very quickly, I think, with that analogy. Yeah. But we don't want to just decimate people. These folks, Bruce Jenner needs a lot of help. He needs the gospel. He needs biblical counseling. He needs a lot of loving Christians to help him and walk with him through something that's just sinful thinking, and the Bible specializes in sinful thinking.
Well, yeah, it's sad. It's easy to comment on, but it's sad to watch. Well, listen, there's a lot of things to talk to you about in addition to that. First of all, what's your take on Brian Williams? NBC announced last night he's off the air for 6 months without pay. Yeah. That's basically he's done, isn't he?
Yeah, well, you know, I think there's two subjects as we look at Brian Williams. One is, has the man disqualified himself from the position of being a reliable news source? That is a subject, and some people are talking about that. But what I see, the majority subject matter is, did he lie? How many times did he lie? I can't believe that he's a liar. Wow. The Christian, of all people, we should respond and go, Brian Williams lied. Knock me over with a feather. I know lying. I understand lying because the cross reminds me I'm a liar. And so if I, as a Christian, condescend and look at Brian Williams like, I'm forgetting the core tenet of my faith, and that is the gospel. Perry, before God saved me, wow, I needed records to keep track of my lying. I mean, I know what it means to be a liar. Yeah. And if I look at Brian Williams like, dude, lying, busted, then I've completely forgotten what God saved me from.
Yeah. Well, he's out. He's done. I think NBC probably took the easy way out by suspending him for 6 months. That's the beginning of the end. But what about journalistic integrity? I mean, we're saying, look, the guy that came to his rescue, of all people, is Dan Rathers, who got fired for lying and manufacturing stories. So what about journalistic integrity? Is it gone?
I think, you know, without being kind of a downer, It's not just journalistic integrity that's gone. Societal integrity is gone. Political integrity is gone. In many ways, pastoral integrity is gone. But we shouldn't be going, oh no, what's happened to us? Nothing's happened. It's just being revealed. See, Brian was busted because of the internet and videos and the ability to communicate. Nothing new has really happened here. Just sin is discovered more than it used to be. Our whole culture is morally bankrupt. And again, this is not like, oh, we've changed. We used to be really moral. No, we're just seeing a lot of sin. And it shouldn't cause the Christian to get all dour. It should cause us to go, they're sinners. We've got the solution for sin. We can help Brian Williams. We can help Dan Rather. By the way, I saw Dan Rather recently at the Gaylord Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. He's looking quite old and frail.
Well, your perspective is spot on, because I find it interesting that we're all sinners. Some of us are just saved by grace. You know?
Yeah. And this is not cliche business. Like you remember the story, Perry. The kids are gathered around for the sermon for the kids, and the pastor, he's holding up pictures, and it happens to be an animal with 2 humps, and he says, "Does anybody know what this is? Billy? Well, it looks like a camel, but it's probably Jesus." Okay, the answer is always Jesus. The answer is always the gospel, but it's not a cliche. When we see society, their sin exposed to us, the last thing we should do is condescend, because we're forgetting that we're still sinners who need saving every day by God. But it should also cause us to go, oh, we can help. I've got something for you, Brian. Got something for you, Dan. Got something for you, Phil and the Bruce Jenner. Got something for you. And it should actually excite us to say, these are the opportunities that we have as Christians to bring a message of healing and hope, because they are, look, Bruce Jenner, clearly the man is lost. And we should actually get excited to go, oh, we could help Bruce.
Boy, that is so true. All right, Todd, I want to swing over to something that's still in the news, which is kind of interesting, because usually news stories have a life cycle of about 90 seconds. And that's the president's speech before the National Prayer Breakfast. And I am, with all due respect, I am so tired of this guy getting up and pointing his finger in my face and scolding me as if I don't know anything, and then turn around and condemn me as a Christian. How off the wall was his remarks, from your opinion?
It was the mainstream narrative. It has been the story that has been told for far too long, that has gone unchallenged, and even by Christians. Like most Christians, you bring up the word Crusades, and don't even say that word. We could get in trouble. The narrative of culture has said the Crusades were bad. Well, okay, wait a second. Let's remember this. Any war, atrocities happen. Any war. We see the pictures of the girl running naked from the village being napalmed. Atrocities happen. The question is, was the intention of the war to go about the business of being cruel, torturing, or stealing? And the answer to the Crusade question is absolutely not. When Prophet Muhammad died, 632, the marching orders were take over the world. That is why the Middle East, which was predominantly Christian, suddenly became Muslim, because they propagated their faith through the sword, following the dictates of their prophet Muhammad. And so they marched, they took over, going from Mecca, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, into India, most of Europe, up to France, until the battle until it was Charles Martel who finally resisted them. Southern Italy, many of the islands in the Mediterranean, all taken over by Muslims, including a little old city that we read about in the Bible called Jerusalem. The atrocities of the Muslims were well known, and the cries of the Christians and the Jews from Jerusalem made their way all the way to Vatican City. And I'm not saying that it's the church's job to form an army, but back then church and state were commingled, and Pope Urban II in 1092 launched the Crusades to free people from Islamic oppression and brutality. They were not going out for booty because you had to pay to go. It was a 9,000-mile march, most 90% on foot, 10% on horseback. There was no booty to be had. It was a noble effort. Some probably thought they were earning their way to heaven. That aside, it was actually a noble endeavor that unfortunately had some sinful atrocities along the way, like any war. The Crusades were in response to Islam. Apparently, our president doesn't know history.
But he scolded. Well, let me do it. Let me take a break. I'll come back, but let me set you up. When he did it in a very scolding, condemning way. It was like, hey, you Christians, by the way, it's me too. And I thought, yeah, right. Well, anyway, he did it in such a condemning way that it just didn't go over. You know what's so interesting to me, Todd? I got to take a break, and that is how many non-believers came out and defended the Christian position. I mean, this is a historic moment. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with Todd Friel. Okay, we're back, and our special guest and good friend Todd Friel's with us. He's the host of Wretched TV, Wretched Radio, and he does have a face, but right now he only has a right arm. And but anyway, you can see.
I'm looking at my computer. Perry, here's the headline. A French artist, this is hot off the press, hot off the internet, a French artist who on a wall did his modern art, the coexist, he painted the coexist symbol.
Yeah.
He got beat up by 4 Muslims.
Oh, boy. There you go.
Coexist guy gets beat up by 4 Muslims.
There you go. All right. All right, so.
I'm not making this up. Really, they've got the big picture of the graffiti, and the guy's face is black and blue because 4 Muslims were offended by the coexist sign. Every time you hear Allahu Akbar, they're saying, no, our God is better than your God. And so they were offended by the coexist symbol and beat the man up.
All right, the president was quick to use the name or the term or the title of Christ. A lot of atrocities and deaths were done in the name of Christ Jesus, but he would never mention the fact that the current atrocities are being done in the name of Muhammad. What are we to do with this? I mean, I've never seen a president defend and support the enemy like this. It's just unbelievable. Yeah,
and and two, have there been atrocities done in the name of Jesus? Yes, but look, even today, I don't know if you saw this video footage, Perry, but there was some sort of Islamic rally in Texas at the Capitol, and a Christian woman came running up to the microphone screaming, "You will never take over Texas. God will reign over my dead body." And she was just kind of crazy and wild-eyed and out of control. And every Christian went, "No, she does not represent us. Nope, we got to stop that." And that is what has happened historically, whether it was the Crusades, the Inquisitions, whether it was slavery, Jim Crow. Were there Christians who sinned along the way? Yes, but our president brought up, you Christians don't get on your high horse. You had slavery in America. You had Jim Crow laws. Yeah, and it was Christians who abolished those things. Of course there are issues that we need to work through. History doesn't happen in an instant. It shows us the perspective, the mindset of our president toward Christians, Bible-believing Christians. Perry, the offense continued when he said, we got to stop thinking like God only speaks to us. You're a Christian. Of course we have the truth in the Bible. Jesus said it. So he exposed himself and his mindset and his attitude toward biblical Christians. And I have to tell you, it was pretty scary. All right, Todd, I don't know how to really ask this question, but other than to just be blunt. Who is he? Is he a Christian or is he a Muslim? Yeah, based on the testimony of his mouth, he's not a Christian. He even in this speech made it very clear that all religions are valid. If an individual who professes to be a Christian believes that there are other roads to God except through Jesus Christ, you're automatically disqualified from the kingdom because your views are not just heterodox, they are heretical. And so our president, while professing something of a faith in Jesus Christ, doesn't believe that he's the exclusive way to God, and therefore his theology disqualifies him, not to mention his actions. He is the most aggressively pro-choice president ever. And so his lifestyle, while nice regarding marriage and kids, that's all sweet. When he signs legislation to kill babies, when his mouth professes the wrong Jesus and the wrong theology and the wrong soteriology, he's not a Christian. But Perry, did you watch the actual presentation from the prayer breakfast?
Yeah, I was just stunned. I thought the first 9 minutes leading up to it was nothing more than a setup. He knew he was going to make that statement.
Yeah. But did you notice, I think it was a little bit off the cuff, and the pauses were just a beating. I think that this man has to think a lot. And one of the things that he said, and this is actually instructive for us, he said, the beginning place for faith is doubt. That's why you born-again Christians shouldn't be so confident in your beliefs. Well, first of all, Hebrews 11 tells us that faith is the confident knowing that what we believe is true. At any rate, we saw a president who believes that it's a bit of a muddle for him regarding religion. It's confusing. As he said, we're all just stumbling and staggering our way to God. No, we're not. We're not. No, you might be, President, but we're not. And so I think, if nothing else, Perry, we did see a glimpse into the rather befuddled mind of our president.
All right, there's something that's going to take place in a couple of weeks, Todd, and that is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu coming to town, and he's going to do the joint session of Congress. And by the way, from what I understand and read, even though there's a lot of pressure for him to cancel, he's more determined than ever to come. Some senators have announced now that they won't attend. Some Congress people have announced they won't attend. It's questionable whether the vice president will be there, and he's president of the Senate. This could be an interesting time. And yet, if there's ever a time for Netanyahu to address the United States, this is it.
There's a bit of a perfect storm that seems to be brewing for Christians. We have our president making the national prayer breakfast comments. We have our president not liking that the the leader of the Israeli nation is coming to speak, and we're turning our back to him. So Christians are being scolded, Jews are being shunned, and Muslims are being elevated as the religion of peace. In regards to terrorism, the religion whose name we dare not speak. So Muslims good, Christians and Jews bad. I don't mind telling you, I don't like the way that this storm is shaping up.
All right. Kayla Mueller, we find out now, was killed, held by ISIS for over a year. She was killed. Here she's nothing more than a sweet humanitarian, working with Doctors Without Borders. When an innocent pilot was assassinated by being burned to death, by a Jordanian pilot being burned to death, Jordan responded forcefully and continues to respond forcefully. We have an innocent, young, 26-year-old American humanitarian worker, and we don't have a peep of a response. You say?
I would say, Perry, if I spoke Spanish, would you continue to communicate to me in English?
Well, it'd be tough.
It would be pretty tough, unless you do a lot of mime.
Yeah, right.
Somehow understand. But you go, wait a second, that person doesn't speak my language. If I want him to understand what I'm trying to communicate, I better change the way I am delivering the message. Now, here's the unfortunate reality. The religion of Islam is a 7th century religion. Its book has them entrenched in a religion that started in the 600s, and it does not allow them to progress. No science, math, maybe algebra to a degree, but they can't do science experiments, which is why we see so few Nobel Peace Prize winners. So Islam is stuck in a century. Christianity progresses because the Bible allows that. We take our teachings and it allows it to apply in every century. But Islam is stuck, and they are a barbaric religion that is propagation of their faith by the sword. The language that they speak is might. We've seen this historically, that Charles Martel had to violently push back the Turks. He had to meet them and speak the language that they spoke, and that is the language of the sword. Russia understands that language. They do not put up with these shenanigans for a second when their people and ambassadors get kidnapped. Now, I'm not saying this is right, but when it was 4 people that were kidnapped, and one of them was a Russian ambassador, and they were threatening to kill the Russian ambassador, and one of the 4 hostages was killed. The Russian response was to mutilate a high-profile imam and basically send his parts back, a la mafia style, in a box and say, "We want our people back," and they were released. Now, I'm not saying that that is the correct thing to do. My point is, they only speak and respond to a language of violence. And if we keep talking like we're going to start a reset button and let's all play nice and let's be green and global and friendly, it's like you're speaking a foreign language. They don't listen. You've got to speak the language they understand, and that is the language of might. And that's why our government, not Christians, not the church, our government, if it doesn't play that role, we will be rolled over, as has happened historically now for centuries.
Wow, you know, that is beautifully said. And I'm wondering, I'm beginning to think that more and more citizens understand what you just said. It's just the administration doesn't.
Look, we're the American people. We don't want that. But if we don't, they don't hear us.
Well, and they'll keep on doing it, just amazing. Well, Todd, you're an inspiration. By the way, thank you for what you do on Wretched TV. You can see it on the Dove weeknights at 9 o'clock prime time. We re-air it throughout the day and early in the morning. So if you have insomnia, there's a good chance he'll wake you up and keep you going. If you get up early, you can have your coffee and indigestion with him early in the morning. But if you're just normal, you can watch him at 9 o'clock at night. And Wretched Radio, I think I have figured out a way to take an hour of your show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you're on Eastern time, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think I figured out a way. I'll be talking to my engineers. My people will be talking to your people.
I didn't know I had them, but that sounds sweet. Hey, you know what? We're so grateful for you guys. Really, we are. You labor every day so hard to teach truth. So if you're watching the Dove, let me tell you something. To have a really solid Christian network right in your hometown, be grateful.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. God bless you. Hey, you going to hit the NRB?
Still working on it, just for you. Honestly, just for you, I want to get there.
Yeah, okay, because you owe me something. I'm sure it's a lunch or a coffee or something.
Right.
Okay, good to see you, Todd. God bless you, pal. All right, Todd Friel. Check it out, Wretched TV, weeknights at 9 o'clock here on the Dove, and then it's scattered throughout the day as well. It's great. It's wonderful. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.